Peace to everyone. So I've had multiple friends from this channel reach out to me regarding the whole Lumbee tribe getting federal recognition or being on the verge of getting federal recognition. Now, I am of the opinion that they should not ever be federalized. Yes, I voted for Donald Trump. Yes, I'm against all the transgendering of children. Yes, I want a stable economy. Yes, I want safe and secure borders. Yes, I believe in actual borders, not imaginary boundaries to keep people away from each other, as a lot of Native groups and individuals will say. I am a realist. I believe in the border of the Muskogee Creek Nation Reservation. If that's a real border, then so is the U.S. border. Let's be real. Okay? All right. All that being said, I'm against Donald Trump on this one. Okay? For one, I want to see the Epstein list, and he was fighting that. I'm very much in favor of the Epstein list being brought to light. Okay? But I really want for the Lumbee to not be federalized. Now, there's a few reasons why. It's not because I dislike the Lumbee as human beings. That has nothing to do with anything. That is zero to do with my position, because I'm sure there's a lot of really good, nice people among the Lumbee, the so-called Lumbee. And we'll get into that, because at one point they were calling themselves the Croatan tribe. Now there's the whole lost colony of Roanoke, and there's a tree that where Croatan was carved into it, and there was this assumption that that was the name of the people. And then you have these people that are claiming descent, and they live in the right area, and they're saying, we're Croatan. And they're saying, people are saying, oh, but there's probably most likely a connection to this people. So they're saying, we're Cherokee. We're Cherokee. We're the Lumbee. Okay. Then you have this guy. I mean, he sounds like the dumbest, most ignorant bullshitter that you're ever going to find. Hillbilly, native-looking dude. But is he really? I don't know. Looks could be deceiving. This guy's like, we're the Lums, because we're from you're from the Lumbee River, whatever. He's just like saying all this crap. He's like, and we're the Lums, and hey there, Lum. Like, he's just saying all this pure bullshit coming out of his mouth, trying to make it sound like that's what they were always called, when he knows damn good and well that's not the case, unless he's just that ignorant, which I assume is probably possible as well, right? So I'm not even sure how old that clip is. I gotta find that clip. But we're the Lums. Like, that stupid voice stuck in my head, because it's like, it's a hillbilly that's obviously bullshitting you, and I can't stand that crap. I have nothing against hillbilly or southern accents, okay? I miss my poor old great Aunt Arlene's rural Welika, Oklahoma accent. I miss it. It makes me laugh inside. It really does. She said some funny things, and she did it with that accent, and I love her, and I miss her, okay? But this guy was an idiot. Lums, okay? So he's just making crap up, okay? Just like the whole Lumbee so-called tribe has been making crap up their entire quote-unquote history, right? The reality is they have a lot of European blood, and they have a lot of African-American blood too. And their claims of being Indian probably go back to anti-blackness. In other words, oh, you look a little bit colored. That's because I'm an Indian, right? Because it's not very popular when you are what they would call a mulatto back in those days. Being some half-breed or some high yellow, okay? These are terms that were being thrown around. And you'd rather be, I guess in some cases, maybe you'd rather be a breed, which is a term you use. That's what I am. I'm a breed. I'm a mixed-blooded Muskogee Indian with European lineage, okay? And people didn't like breeds in the mid-20th century. or even afterwards. And you got people that are so-called full-bloods that don't like breeds. Oh, well, too damn bad. We exist, and we're citizens of the tribe. Okay, anyway, these Lumbees are not breeds in that sense. Most of them. Now, here's the thing. If there is an extremely small, almost negligible amount of Indian blood, it's probably because of some unspecified tribe had citizens that were captured and were enslaved and lived among the black slaves who dominated them in numbers. And if they intermixed with them, which we don't even know for sure how much of that even was occurring, you would end up with these mixed-blooded Indian black kids that would have grown up and kept mixing with the black population that was there until they got freed, or they got intermixed with some white masses, possibly, you know, for those who don't understand the historical term massa, it's the slave owner, it's the master, okay? And that's what the slave would call him, is the massa, okay? So maybe there was some of that cross-pollination happening before the Emancipation Proclamation. I don't know. That definitely happened in the South a lot. I don't know about the so-called Lumbee ancestors, but supposedly, I mean, at some point, you had whites mixing with blacks and in that area. And at some point, their descendants started claiming to be Indians, and probably are not. And maybe now enough of them have mixed with some other stuff to where it's like, okay, imagine this. You have black dude, black chick have a kid. That kid, you know, has kids with a white person. Now there's a kid that's half black and half white. You have, now let's just say they end up having a kid with a white person. They might have a kid with a black person, and they have a kid that's 3/4 black and looks mostly black, probably, but might have some trace elements of white features, versus the 3/4 white kid who's going to have noticeable trace elements of black, but might be able to pass as something else potentially. That kid marries a white person, has a kid. Now you got even less African blood. I don't know if the hair gene has now been bred out. You might have other facial features that maybe partly remain with light skin tone, light eyes probably, or maybe brown eyes. I don't know. But the African hair is not there anymore, probably. Maybe you've got much straighter hair now because you've had enough intermixing with whites who these particular whites might not have had a lot of curly hair. And if they did, it was like this kind right here, okay? Irish, curly hair, okay? So, I don't know. In the end, you end up with people that have certain dominant traits and certain less dominant traits that still kind of slip on through. And then whatever percentage of white and black these individuals have, in varying degrees, they start intermixing again, and you end up with people that basically are brown looking but have white surnames, whether from patrilineal Europeans or whether patrilineally from former slaves who had their massa's last name, okay? And that's not uncommon, okay? Sometimes they change their last name and create a new name, you know? And some didn't. Some just kept the same name, okay? In any case, it was less popular to be black. You had Southerners that were claiming Cherokee princess ancestry despite looking as white as snow. So it wouldn't be a huge stretch for these so-called Lumbees to be saying, oh, well, we're Indians with some white blood mixed in. Okay? So, yeah. So I look at the pictures of their princesses and all this stuff. I don't know how many of them have mixed possibly with Mexican at this point or other Latino bloodlines. I don't know. And maybe they're taking those ones and saying, oh, yes, well, this is the Lumbee tribe. Okay. So now it's like you have these very white looking Lumbees, and you have these sort of like Lumbees that might have it look like they got trace elements of black ancestry. And then you got some that look like they're Hispanic, probably because they are Hispanic. But their daddy or granddaddy was a Lumbee. We're with a Lum people, idiot. Okay. But I digress. So, so yeah, I mean, the history has been very inconsistent. They keep changing the name of their tribe, and their ancestry is white and black. There's virtually no trace elements of any native and indigenous bloodline on a genetic level, which means even if it is far back, it's so far back that they can't even verify what tribe they would supposedly descend from. Okay, so that's an issue. Then, well, guess what? Because they don't have a solid native lineage and culture they can verifiably trace back to, they start, which because of that, they have no language. Okay, they have no language. And when they keep changing the name of their tribe, it can go from Iroquoian, Cherokee, to like Chera, which I believe is Siouan language. These are different language groups. It's like the people that think, oh, all natives look the same, or all tribes are the same. They all wear headdresses. They all live in teepees. Nope. Try again. So yeah, you have the Lumbee who have no language outside of English. They have no medicine ways that trace back to any kind of real tribe. They have no dances, no customs that actually trace back to any tribe other than through the powwow culture. So it's kind of like how the Porch Band of Creek Indians sort of adopted powwow stuff because they didn't have the actual Muskogee stuff that exists in Oklahoma to this day. So they started, and now they've been slowly buying it with all that casino money. But for decades, they would do the whole powwow thing, and that became their way of being Native American, right? The difference is the Porch Band people can actually trace back to Indian ancestors. However thinly as they might, they can actually trace back to some kind of Indians. Not necessarily always Muskogee Indians, but they can trace back to some Indians, okay? But yeah, you've got... Yeah, the Lumbee have basically taken powwow culture, and they're using that as if it proves that they're native. And they have all this very generic powwow type dress. I remember at one point, on their website, they had a guy that looked like he was, a mixed blooded native-ish kind of guy. So he's probably half Mexican, who knows? Wearing this turban with a band, just like you'd see on these Muskogee turbans. But the band he had was brass instead of silver or nickel. But he was basically adopting Southeastern clothing. Okay? It had nothing to do with what these tribes that they were claiming ancestry from actually were wearing. Okay? It's kind of ridiculous. And I've been watching them slowly but surely over the years, not paying as much attention to them as I have like the Porch Band or, of course, my own tribe. But I've been checking in every once in a while to see what's going on with these people. And so, yeah, they shouldn't be a tribe. I don't care how much Donald Trump supports them, and I support Donald Trump. I don't support him in this. Okay, like, this is stupid. Okay, I don't care how much of a voter base, how much support they gave him. I mean, one thing about Donald Trump is, he does have a tendency to like to have his ego stroked. And so, maybe they stroked his ego and he's like, oh, the Lumbee. Ah, yes, the Lumbee. I love the Lumbee people. Let's try to get them federalized. It's like, no. That's not how it works, Mr. President. Okay? They should not be. So, and then, of course, the Lumbee are saying, oh, well, the North Carolina Cherokee are just mad. They're jealous because if we get federal recognition, it's because it's going to take away some of their funding. No, it's because the Lumbee have been falsely claiming to be connected to several different tribes that they probably have zero ancestry back to any of. And they've basically culture vultured powwow culture, okay? And they've stolen this culture, they've misappropriated it, they've claimed it as their own, which is not. And they've been running with this BS for way too long. And I'm sorry, I mean, supposedly some of them went to boarding school. They've been pretendians for a long time, apparently. Okay, like, I'm sorry, if you can't prove actual Indian ancestry, if you can't prove that you have an actual tribal language, tribal customs, a tribal government that can trace back to treaties with European powers, for example, and some will say, well, I don't need to be recognized by a foreign nation. I'm native just the way I am. Well, that's great. But you are not a tribe. You're an individual. For a tribe to exist, it has to have these things now. Pre-Columbus, different story. Post-Columbus, well, we're now living in the technological 21st century. And we've been living in the technological, under the technological banner of the United States of America. And so now we have to do things differently. And before that, we had the British crown, we had the Spanish crown, we had the French crown, and even the German crown at some point, dealing with parts of the Americas. And so we have to do things differently now. We can't just say, oh, well, we're just going to go ahead and make everyone full-bloods now. Yeah, I'm sorry, that was a whole different topic right there. I can't remember which tribe it is that's trying to, like, take even those that are as much as a quarter blood and saying, oh, you're full-bloods now. It's like, what's the point? Because they want to increase their membership because they're losing numbers. So as long as you're a full-blood legally, you could now be a full citizen. Okay, what about the other people that you booted out? Can this 1/8 blood now become a half blood? Anyway, that's a different topic for a different video, okay? But yeah, I mean, this is like, it's just stupid. And now you have this fake tribe, and it's been a fake tribe for a long time. It's probably going to get federalized, and they have no right to be federalized, in my book. And I say that as a Donald Trump supporter, and I say that as a citizen of a real, federally recognized Indian tribe. Okay? And yeah, this needs to be fixed. Like, this is one time where I say that the rest of the government needs to actually fight Trump on this one, because this is one thing he should not win. Because the Lumbee don't deserve that. And I know you have people that are Lumbee that are like, people have been saying at school that I'm not really Indian, and it's really hurtful, and you know, all this stuff. I'm like, okay, well, that sucks. Blame your parents or your grandparents or your great-grandparents. I don't care. But if genetics are not showing that you have native blood, if the history can't verify that you trace back to an actual tribe, then I'm sorry, sweetheart, you're not native. You never were. Your parents lied to you, and maybe their parents lied to them, and maybe their parents lied to them. And that's not the fault of the rest of Indian country that your ancestors are a bunch of liars and pretendians. Sorry. It's not our fault. And yeah, there are legitimate tribal resources, legitimate, you know, federal fundings and things like that actually need to go to Indians that are real Indians, not fake Indians. Okay? So whenever you have like a state-recognized Cherokee tribe, Cherokee, quote-unquote, that tribe, quote-unquote, because it's like, what they are is a cultural, like, fan society or whatever. I don't know. They're not really a tribe, though. Okay? It's like, even though I'm a citizen of Muskogee Nation, I can't just say, okay, I'm going to start the California Muskogee tribe. I can't do that. I don't have that kind of authority within the framework of our tribe to go and just branch out. I could start a new tribal town if enough fellow citizens wanted to start a new one, and start a new ceremonial grounds, and that would actually be legit under our old ways. But as far as like starting a new federally recognized tribe, or even a state recognized tribe that has some legitimacy, I can't do that. You know, so where all these like fake Cherokee groups go off doing that is beyond me. So and then they start adopting other people into the tribes. This is what these pretendian groups do. You might have one person with actual native blood, they adopt their stepdaughter, they adopt their friends, they adopt their other non-native family members, and then next thing you know, they're a tribe now. And it's like, no, you're not. When the Muskogee Nation of Florida, quote unquote, was trying to get itself recognized and trying to put its own tribal roles together, about for every one person with a legitimate native ancestry, there was like 2.5 other individuals claiming that they were Indian, but who really weren't. That's a huge problem right there. That's a huge problem. So yeah, a lot of fakes, a lot of fake Cherokee out there. Okay, and the Lumbee are among those fake Cherokee because they were claiming to be Cherokee, and they're not. So North Carolina Cherokee has every right to just say, nope, you guys should not be federalized. Okay, because then now you're going to have these pretendian groups that are going to just, stroke the ego of the president, and then all of a sudden, or his successors or whoever, and then get federalized. I mean, at that rate, you might as well give the Muskogee Creek Indian Freedmen Band federal recognition. That way they don't have to force their way into the real Muskogee Nation, right? I would rather see them get federalized as descendants of people that actually had citizenship for a time than, but as a separate group, the Muskogee Nation of Oklahoma, than to see the Lumbee federalized. That's the truth. So, anyway, those are my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, if you would, please. Yeah, but for watching. And Hadam Chichatlis.